I always believed secrets had a way of surfacing, but I never imagined a complete stranger would walk up to me, whisper my husband's name, and claim he'd made a massive mistake. I laughed at first until that stranger told me exactly who he really was and why he'd come for me. Asterisk, I share new life stories here every day, and I would really appreciate it if you hit subscribe and liked my video. Now let's jump back into my story. I'm sure you love it. If you keep listening till the end and tell me from which part of the world you are watching this story, I am interested too. Know how far away this story traveled. My name is Naomi Carter, and for 12 years I thought my marriage to David was steady, predictable, and safe. He was calm, responsible, a man who carried himself with a kind of quiet confidence you couldn't help but trust. I never suspected a thing, never wondered about his late nights, his emergency shifts, or his sudden trips out of town. I trusted him the way a lock trusts its key. But the day everything cracked began like any other. I was coming out of the grocery store, bags sliding down my arms, mind focused on dinner, when I saw him, a tall man dressed in black, sunglasses on even though the sun had dropped low. He stood by a silver car, staring right at me. Not the casual, accidental gaze of a passerby. No, this was deliberate, intentional. I felt the hairs on my arms rise. I tried to keep walking, but the man stepped forward quickly. "Mrs. Carter," he said, voice low, smooth, too steady. "Yes," I answered, tightening my grip on my purse. He removed his sunglasses. His eyes were sharp, calculating, assessing. Eyes that looked at me as if they already knew everything about me. "Your husband," he said calmly, "made a huge mistake." I froze. "What husband?" "My husband, David. The man who never argued, never broke rules, never even missed a dentist appointment." "You have the wrong person," I said quickly. He shook his head. "Naomi, I need you to listen. David isn't who you think he is." My heart skipped. "Who are you?" I asked, stepping back. He extended a card. No name, no company. Just a number and a symbol I'd never seen before. Something like an interlocked circle and triangle. "My name is Calvin Brooks," he said, "and I'm here because your husband's past is catching up to him. To all of you." I laughed nervously. "This is ridiculous. Whatever scam you're running, leave us out of it." But Calvin didn't flinch. He leaned closer and said one sentence that shattered the ground beneath my feet. "He wasn't supposed to marry you." My breath caught. "What?" Calvin sighed, as if realizing he'd already said too much. "Look, I'm not your enemy. But David wasn't honest about where he came from or who he used to be. And now someone else is looking for him. Someone who won't come talk to you kindly." A cold shiver ran down my spine. "I'm warning you," Calvin said. "Talk to your husband tonight. Ask him about Marcus and about what happened 12 years ago. Watch his face. He'll understand everything." He stepped back, opened his car door, then added, "And Naomi, whatever you do, don't let him see this conversation shook you. Act normal." Then he drove off, leaving me standing there with shaking hands and a million questions. When I got home, David was in the kitchen cooking, humming softly, as casual and warm as ever. He looked up and smiled. "Hey, babe, you okay? You look pale." I forced a laugh. "I'm fine. Just tired." But inside, I wasn't fine. Inside, the stranger's words were spinning like a cyclone. Who was Marcus? What mistake had David made? And what kind of past was powerful enough for a stranger to track me down? That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay beside my husband, listening to his steady breathing, wondering whether the man I trusted with my whole life was actually someone I'd never known at all. And the worst part? The more I replayed Calvin's expression, the more I believed he wasn't lying. Asterisk, I didn't confront David that night. Something in Calvin's warning kept echoing in my head. Don't let him see this conversation shook you. So I kept quiet. I watched my husband move around the house the next morning, pouring coffee, humming to himself, scrolling through his phone as if life were perfectly normal. But nothing felt normal. Every gesture, every emotionless blink, every casual laugh felt rehearsed, like he was performing a version of himself. I had been too naive to question by noon. I could no longer stand the ache of not knowing. I slipped outside with my phone and dialed the number on the plain white card Calvin had given me. It rang once, then twice, then Naomi. His voice came through immediately, as if he'd been waiting. "Yes," I whispered. "I need answers? I figured you would." There was no triumph in his tone, only urgency. "Where are you?" "Outside my house." "Good, don't go far from the door. You might need to get inside quickly." My stomach tightened. "What are you talking about?" A long silence stretched between us, too thick to breathe through. "Naomi, did you ask him about Marcus?" "No, not yet." Calvin exhaled sharply. "You need to. Because the man you know as David Carter isn't who he says he is. 12 years ago, he wasn't some sweet, quiet, law-abiding man. He had another name, another life." "What life?" "I demanded ask him about Marcus Hale," Calvin said. "Ask him about the job they pulled, the one that went wrong. Ask him why he disappeared. Ask him." Suddenly, the line clicked. Disconnected. I stared at my phone, heartbeat slamming against my ribs. Why did he hang up? Or who cut the line? Inside the house, I heard footsteps. David stepped out onto the porch, squinting toward me. "Who were you talking to?" he asked. My throat dried instantly. I forced a smile. "Just my sister. She wants us to visit next month." He nodded, but something in his eyes shifted an instinctive suspicion, a flicker of fear he tried to bury. I had never seen that look on him before. After lunch, I pretended to take a nap. Instead, I unlocked his office door while he was in the shower. His laptop was password protected, of course, but the drawers weren't. Inside the bottom drawer was a metal lockbox, small, heavy, scratched like it had been dragged through a storm. The key wasn't in the drawer. But then I remembered David always kept an old key taped under his work desk. He once jokingly called it his backup plan. I reached under the desk. The tape was still there, and the key felt cold, too cold. I slid it into the box. It clicked open. Inside were 3 things. A driver's license with David's picture, but a different name. Marcus Hale. A folded newspaper clipping. Armed robbery gone wrong. 1 dead. 1 missing. A phone with cracks across the screen. My hand shook as I flipped the ID again and again. The picture wasn't doctored. The date of birth lined up. The scar above his eyebrows, same shape. This wasn't another man. David. Was Marcus? Footsteps thudded in the hallway. I jolted, nearly dropping the ID. The bathroom door opened. David was coming out. I shoved everything back into the box, closed it, locked it, returned the key, and slipped out of the office just moments before he turned the corner. "There you are," he said softly, drying his hair with a towel. "I thought you were resting, just getting some water." He kissed my cheek, and for the first time in 12 years, his touch felt foreign, like it belonged to a stranger standing in my husband's skin. That night, I hid the card Calvin gave me under my pillow. I kept waking up, checking the dark corners of the room, listening for footsteps that didn't belong. Because one thing was now painfully clear. My husband didn't just have secrets. He had a whole other identity, and if Calvin was right, the past David Marcus walked away from was coming straight for us. Sleep became impossible after that night. Every creak in the house, every shifting shadow under the door made my breath hitch. I kept replaying the 3 items in that lockbox's fake ID. The robbery article. A burner phone with its shattered screen. Proof. Unshakable proof that my husband wasn't David Carter at all. He was Marcus Hale, a man connected to violent crime. A man who vanished from his past by becoming someone new. But why come to me? Why build a whole life, a whole marriage on a lie? By morning, exhaustion had wrapped around me like a second skin. I needed answers, real ones. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized the only person who could give them to me was the same stranger who'd approached me in the grocery store parking. Calvin. I slipped out of the house under the excuse of getting fresh air. David Marcus was in his workshop. tinkering with a project like nothing in the world was wrong. The calmness on his face made me uneasy. What kind of man could hide an entire life behind such an easy smile? I walked down the street and dialed the number from the plain white card again. This time, Calvin picked up on the first ring. "Naomi, tell me you're somewhere safe." "I'm outside. I need to talk to you. In person now." There was a pause, short, tense. "Fine, 10 minutes. Same place." When I got to the grocery store lot, his car was already there. Calvin stepped out, scanning the area before motioning for me to get in. "You found something?" he said. I didn't answer. I didn't have to. The fear in my eyes must have told him everything. Calvin exhaled heavily. "I tried to prepare you gently, but I guess there's no gentle way to learn your husband has a second identity." "Tell me everything," I whispered. He looked at me carefully. 12 years ago, Marcus Hale wasn't just some petty criminal. He and his best friend, the real Marcus, the man you saw in the Ida, were part of a job crew. They got caught in a robbery gone wrong. One member of the crew died, one disappeared. The police assumed that man was the Marcus in the article, but David looks exactly like the man in the ID. "Yes," Calvin said quietly, "because he is that man." My breath faltered. "He didn't just run," Calvin said. "He reinvented himself. New name, new story, new life, everything he ever told you about his past. Made up." I swallowed hard. "Then who are you in all this?" That question made his jaw clench. "I wasn't lying when I said your husband made a huge mistake," Calvin said. "There was more to that robbery than cash. Something went missing. Something valuable. Something that belonged to dangerous people." My stomach churned. "And your husband is the only one left who knows where it is." I stared at him, horrified. "Then why come to me?" I demanded. "Why put me in this?" Calvin's voice dropped to a painful quiet. "Because they're not looking for him anymore." Shot through my chest. "They think he might have told you," Calvin said. "Or left something with you. These people don't ask questions nicely. And they never leave loose ends." The world tilted beneath me. "Are you saying I'm in danger?" "You already are." My breath hitched. Tears burned behind my eyes. "And David Marcus knows." I whispered. Calvin nodded once. "He's been running from them for years. He knew this day would come. He knew they'd eventually find him, and now he's preparing for what?" Calvin stared straight ahead, jaw tight. "For a confrontation," he said. "Or for another escape." My stomach twisted. Another escape. Another disappearance. Another life he could step into without looking back. "And if he thinks you're a risk?" Calvin paused, choosing his words carefully. "He might not take you with him." It's cold spread down my spine like spilled ink. "So what do I do?" I whispered. Calvin's answer was simple. "You need to decide, Naomi," he said. "Are you going to confront him? Or are you going to run before he does?" His words settled over me like thunder, because, deep down, I already knew the man waiting for me at home wasn't my husband. He was a stranger wearing my husband's face. Asterisk. I walked back home from the meeting with Calvin feeling like my legs didn't belong to me. Every step felt heavier, every breath thinner. The world around Meatha Street, the trees, the familiar houses suddenly looked strange, as if I had stepped into a parallel life where everything was familiar but wrong. The closer I got to my front door, the more one thought hammered inside my skull: the man in that house isn't who I married. When I entered, David Marcus was in the living room pretending to read a magazine, but the tightness in his shoulders betrayed him. He glanced up with a smile too quick to rehearsed. "There you are," he said. I was starting to worry. Worry. That word twisted something in me. Not because I believed he was worried about me, but because I suddenly wondered if he was worried about what I might know. I just needed a walk. I said calmly, forcing my voice not to tremble. He nodded, but his eyes didn't leave mine. They watched, studied, searched, and that's when I realized he suspected something. We ate dinner in suffocating silence. I pushed food around my plate while he watched me with an intensity that made my skin crawl. When I finally stood to clear the dishes, his hand shot out and grabbed my wrist. "Naomi," he said softly, "is there something you want to tell me?" My heart kicked hard against my ribs. I turned slowly, forcing a smile. "No? Why?" His eyes narrowed the slightest bit. "I saw you talking to someone at the store yesterday. Who was he?" My blood froze. He had seen Calvin, meaning he had been watching me without me noticing. Just how long had he been doing that? "I don't know who you mean," I lied smoothly, praying he couldn't hear the tremor in my chest. For a moment, the room grew so still it felt like the air itself was holding its breath. Then the grip on my wrist loosened. "Okay," he said, voice gentle, too gentle. "I believe you." But I knew he didn't. And worse, I knew he was pretending. That night, when he thought I was asleep, he got out of bed quietly. I heard his steps moving down the hall, the faint creak of his office door opening. I waited, counting seconds, breathing silently. Then I slipped out of bed and crept after him. His office door was cracked just enough for me to see him. He wasn't sitting at his desk. He was kneeling beside the lockbox, the same box I had opened, the same box I had put everything back into. He lifted the lid, and then he froze. He noticed it. Something was off, maybe a paper folded slightly different, scratch on the metal, the key placed at a slightly different angle. Whatever it was, it told him someone had opened it. Someone was onto him. I watched the muscles in his jaw clench. His face hardened not with fear, but with resolve. He stood, grabbed the burner phone from the box, dialed a number I'd never seen him call before. A man answered, a deep voice, cold. "Yeah, it's time. My husband, my stranger, said, they found me." My entire body went numb. He hung up, shoved the phone into his pocket, and closed the box. Then, slowly, he lifted his head and stared directly at the doorway, at me. I hadn't made a sound. I hadn't breathed. Yet, somehow, he knew. "Naomi," he said quietly, "come out." There was no point in hiding now. I stepped into the office, my heart pounding so hard it hurt. His eyes searched mine, not with love, not with warmth, but with a kind of sadness that terrified me more than anger ever could. "You should have stayed out of this," he whispered. I swallowed. "What are you going to do?" He didn't answer directly. Instead, he walked toward me, slow, controlled, every step deliberate. "I never wanted you involved," he said. "I tried to protect you from who I was, from what I did, but the past always catches up, always." Tears blurred my vision. "Tell me the truth," I begged. "Please." He touched my cheek gently, so gently it broke me. "My real name is Marcus," he whispered. "And the people I ran from, they're coming." I stepped back. "What do they want?" He hesitated. "They want something I took. And if they think I gave it to you, they will come for you too." My voice cracked. "So what now?" His jaw tightened. "Now we leave." Before I could respond, headlights flashed through the window, bright, harsh, blinding. 2 cars. Black silent dot coming down our street. He grabbed my hand. "No time," he said. "If you trust me, even a little, run." And in that moment, with danger closing in from both sides, I realized the most terrifying truth of all. I didn't know whether running with him would save my life or end it. Thanks for watching till end. Please like and subscribe my channel. I will be very thankful to you. Sometimes life takes turns we never expect. Every person in this story carried their own pain, their own choices, and their own consequences. Maybe you saw yourself in one of them, or maybe it reminded you of someone you once knew. What do you think happened next? What would you have done if you were in their place? If you have any questions about what happened to the other characters, or if you want me to share more about them, just comment below. I read every message you leave, and your thoughts truly mean a lot to me. And if this story touched your heart, inspired you, or even made you think differently, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It helps me keep sharing stories that move people, open minds. and remind us we're all human. At the end of the day, your support keeps these stories alive. Thank you for watching, for feeling, and for being part of this journey. More powerful stories are coming soon. Stay tuned and stay kind.